You're now listening to the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast. Straightforward, no nonsense business advice. Completely unfiltered. Grow your business. Grow your life. Now, here's your host, Brian Fullerton.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast. We've got just a great time here that we're going to be spending with none other than Kris Kiser, President and CEO of the GIE+EXPO, and then also the Kris. What's the institute that you're the president of? How do you describe this?
The Outdoor Power Equipment Institute.
OPEI.
That's the trade association.
Yes.
Run it, and it has also the Turf Mutt Foundation, and we own the trade show.
Okay, there you go. So the OPEI, that's what I'm trying to remember the acronym here, but it's so early in the morning and I've only had my first cup of coffee. So,
right.
Amen. So, hey, a lot has transpired over the last 2 months since you and I were able to do our first podcast. Well, probably 3 or 4 months ago. Can you believe it? And man, we're just going 100 miles an hour here. And so we did the podcast, the biggest trade show of the world for the green industry. And by the way, Kris, little feather in your cap. That is, I think, our third or fourth most downloaded podcast. So how about that? Like you're
that's good news.
You're hanging with the big boys, So, but so we just wanted to catch up, talk a little bit more about, hey, the landscape of landscaping the last 2 months, talk about some updates with GIE and a little this, a little that, but.
Have you ever thought about starting your own lawn and landscaping business, but not sure where to start? Look no further than LawnTrepreneurAcademy.com, an e-training website dedicated to helping you start and grow a successful lawn care business. Save more time and make way more money by learning exactly what it takes to grow your business to the next level. Invest in your future by first investing in yourself. Use promo code PODCAST to save 10% on all training programs today at LawnTrepreneurAcademy.com. Now, back to the show.
Kris, what's going on in your neck of the woods? How's things over there in Virginia, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, we're just across the river from Washington, D.C., so the metro area. Adjusting to the new normal.
I know.
As we're all challenged by sheltering in place, staying at home, if you will. And it's given us a huge opportunity to reinforce just how important the outdoors is, our lawn and landscapes, the place to de-stress and anxiety relief. Gotten a lot of radio work, a lot of podcasts, a lot of people wanting to talk to me about that.
Sure.
And Turf Mutt, we also have the Turf Mutt Foundation, right? So Turf Mutt programming. And so Turf Mutt was used. 70 million kids have used our program. Turf Mutt teaches kids about the outdoors, responsible stewardship.
Yeah.
Nature starts at your back door, how important our lawns and landscapes are. 70 million kids have used it since in the past 10 years. Mm-hmm. And what Scholastic, that's our education provider. That's the curriculum development shop. It's the world's largest that puts this stuff into schools. And they created a stay-at-home. So an awful lot of us are now homeschooling kids, right?
Yeah.
A lot of teachers, a lot of parents are now teachers, didn't plan to be, and they're like, oh my gosh, how do I do this? And so Scholastic took some of the programming they use in schools, created a portal for home use and for parents to use, included Turf Mutt. They were listed as number one, Turf Mutt, as did the United States Green Building Council in their Global Learning Lab. Mm-hmm. So we've gotten a lot of play in this downtime with our programmatic elements through Turf Mutt. And the other thing we did, so Turf Mutt's being used and our messages are being used literally around the world. But the other thing we did with Turf Mutt, I'm sort of a dog guy, and Turf Mutt was a rescue pooch, and my new Mutt Mulligan, she's a rescue pooch from GIE+EXPO at Mutt Madness.
There you go.
Is very early in the debate, very early when they said stay at home, we started putting some messages out, as did a lot of folks. We were one voice. But shelters were going to close, and there were a lot of dogs in shelters, and with this was the perfect time to foster. So foster a dog, take the dog home. The dog will help you connect to the outdoors in your lawn and landscape, and it worked. So it wasn't just our voice, but there were thousands of voices. But the shelters emptied.
Yeah.
So all these potential rescues went to homes, and those dogs are helping people connect their families to the outdoors.
For sure. Well, and I was just going to add that up here in Michigan, same thing. All the shelters were closing down, all the kennels, all of this, all of that. Over the last 4 to 6 weeks, the word I keep using is unprecedented. Because, I have a lot of friends, contractors, and, we're trying to refer back to our employee handbook, right, Kris? Hey, page 67, national pandemic, and, not exactly in there, it's kind of like 9/11, unprecedented. Nobody know what to do for the first couple days, weeks, and months. And so, it's just crazy. And, one thing that, and this goes full circle to Turf Mutt, is connecting folks with the outdoors. And we have seen, I'll just tell you honestly, up here in Michigan, we call it like seasonal depression in winter because, in Michigan, it's 150 days straight of clouds, sub-zero temperatures. It's dark at, 8 a.m. It's dark at 4 p.m. Right. And it's just crazy. And so we start to peek our heads out. Right, Kris? And we try to get back out there and in Michigan, go on the lakes and go for a bike ride. And we start getting those first 2 or 3 weeks of 60-degree weather. And then boom, the whole, what would you call it? The floor drops out for us on a national level with this whole COVID crisis. And I'm telling you what, man, people are going stir crazy up here. Like I think mental health is a huge thing that isn't talked about enough. And you try to connect folks to the outdoors, and I just think that it's such a great way to tackle that. And I think people are really starting to appreciate it as we've been kind of cooped up for 3 to 4 weeks, especially here in Michigan. So any input on that thought?
Well, you're spot on. And Michigan, I did the Tom Sumner radio show this morning from Michigan, and Michigan's gone a little crazy. I was at the nursery yesterday, responsibly, smart, right, with my mask and everybody, but I bought a bunch of plants. Right. This is spring. This is the time to reconnect. This is the time to get on Turf Mutt. This is the time to get your kids outdoors. Frankly, get them dirty. That's what any pediatrician will tell you.
Amen.
Get them dirty. Get them a dog. That's what's healthy. And it is the best. I've done some video work of late where one of the best ways to de-stress is in the morning, get off your devices, leave everything in the house, and just sit. Go outside, sit, and listen. Listen to the birds. Yep. It's spring here. Everybody's busy. The foxes are busy. The birds are busy. Everybody's busy. And it's a lot quieter, Brian. I mean, we have so much less road noise and just ambient background noise. It's quiet.
Well, it's beautiful out there.
It's so important.
No, I totally agree. It's so nice out there because Liz and I we've I've taken 20 times the amount of walks in the last 3 weeks. Liz and I, in the morning we take a walk, at night we take a walk. Where we live, we have a huge like Asian Indian population, and Liz and I actually had to look up this word. There's a technical term for it, but our Indian friends out there, they go for a walk. Like, I don't know if it's religious or not, but after they're done with dinner, they go for a nice 45-minute stroll, and we see a lot of that up here. And I'm like, babe, I think they're kind of onto something here because after we get done with dinner, we've taken our dog Teddy, who's a Pomsky. He's a 25 pound butthead, and but I love him. He's full husky, and the stubbornness of a husky and the energy of a Pomeranian, right? And so we take him around the block now once a night, and he loves it. And we've made way more friends just like meeting other people in the apartment complex that we live in. And hey, we didn't even know you guys were like 3 houses down. We've seen you guys for like 6 months. And I think a lot of people are finding, that human connection by, social distancing and being 6 feet apart. Okay, we'll put that in there. But there's so many people that, Kris, I think you said it, they've decluttered,
Well, we're starting to get a sense of what's important, right? Family's important, the dog's important, safety. Is we're reconnecting. And again, I just think, like you said, you're reconnecting to the outdoors and the importance of it. And I think for so long, we'd lost sight of that. So here's hopefully a silver lining in this awful situation in which we find ourselves. Is the outdoor room is your yard, right? It's critically important to your family and your pets and your kids. And do it right. Do it responsibly. And now's the time to have a landscaper. Now's the time to connect to those people. What do I got to plant to get butterflies? What do I got to plant for pollinator support? How do I get bees? Or, what grass do I need? Well, that's where you guys come in. And so hopefully people have said, wow, the outdoors really is important. We start to do the right thing.
Well, I'm a big fan of outdoor living spaces. I think we got to talk about that on our first episode that we did, talking about the magnanimity of the GIE+EXPO. And that's so true. It hits home for me is that I love outdoor living spaces. And I think that the green industry for sure is on an uptick because so many people are paying attention to their lawn, their landscaping, their, hey, why don't we have an outdoor living space? In fact, Kris, maybe you can weigh in on this one, but I've talked to so many different companies that, we have a lot of affiliates that we sell product and move product for, and sales are at the same or if not up, considering that the world is basically crumbling behind the scenes financially. And I'm thinking to myself, well, the green industry is on the grow. I mean, if you have the same sales or above compared to this same time last year, I feel like you're actually up like 50%. You know what I mean? One other thing I wanted to talk about was, and we've fielded a lot of questions, was what about the expo? What's the, we're selling tickets, registration just became available. What's the state of the union for the GIE+EXPO? A lot of folks I'm sure want to know how that's working out.
Right now, Expo is a go. I literally got off a call this morning with the president of Louisville Tourism.
Okay.
To get a sense of what the city's doing, right? So they're planning on running the Derby the first week of September. They pushed the Derby back.
Wow.
And
okay.
they're moving ahead. Now, we think the country is going to, through May and June, begin to come out of this thing. Now, we're going to run Expo responsibly, reasonably, right, with your safety in mind.
Yep.
And hopefully we get some feedback, Brian, from you and your listeners and other landscapers, is how can we do that responsibly? There's going to be a lot of pent-up frustration to get out.
Sure.
And reconnect. Now, luckily, Expo, it's 1 million square feet and 20 acres outdoors. There's room to socially distance, right? And we can wipe down the equipment kind of things and not necessarily pass out masks. Mm-hmm. But there's a desire to have that show. We're actually running pretty good. The exhibit space, the sales, we're on mark. Some of the Asian companies, some of the Chinese companies are not in, but we're only down about 8%.
Oh, wow. That's really good then.
Registration's open and running. We got folks registering, and the hotel numbers came in Friday, and we're tracking ahead of last year.
Wow, no kidding. That's so good.
Right now, we're a go, but we have to do it responsibly. Mm-hmm. And so whatever the situation on the ground is, we'll take that into account. But right now, we're a go.
What's your perspective on the, I think they said the Louisville, I don't know if it's the Kentucky Expo or the old Freedom Hall, Freedom Center. Was that being turned into a makeshift hospital, I thought? Like a FEMA camp or response camp, or what do they call that?
I think they target it as a fallback facility if they needed to. I don't know that they've turned it into a hospital yet. Okay. But it was one of the facilities I know that got on a list that if they needed sort of an emergency. I don't think it's evolving to that out there.
Yeah.
The governor there in Kentucky, a little like your governor, was put in place early and some pretty significant measures on social distancing. They closed a bunch of stuff down. Right. And Kentucky has not taken off with significant hotspots. Okay, good. Well, it's kind of crazy because where we have our live event in November, we have Launchpreneur Academy Live. It'll be our second year doing it, and we had such a warm reception from it last year. And I'm fielding a question a day, like, hey, is Launchpreneur Academy ready to go? And so a little plug there. It'll be November 7th, but it's at the Suburban Collection Showplace, and up here. They literally leased out the whole Suburban Collection Showplace for 6 months. The whole state, the state did. Yeah, they turned it into an overflow, like FEMA, camp, makeshift hospital, like you were just talking about. I've heard that they set up 1,000 beds, but they're slowly dismantling it down to like 250, and then even less. They haven't seen a single patient there. Thank God. We don't want to trivialize the health crisis because there's some real threat to that. But at the same point, when I found out that they leased it all out for 6 months, I did the mental math and I'm like, oh my God, that's like late October. Well, I didn't get a phone call from the Suburban Collection saying that our event was canceled or postponed. So in my eyes, it's a go too, and I'm very, very thankful. I think a lot of the events in the fall, like GIE and my event, extremely thankful and blessed because Kris, up here in Michigan, this was the first year they were going to do the Detroit Auto Show outdoors in June. And they canceled that. Can you believe that? Oh wow! So it's really, really crazy. So what are you guys working on for GIE 2020? Any exciting updates? And we did that last podcast in December, which is crazy. So it's been about 3 or 4 months. Anything that you want to give the lay of the land again that maybe some of our viewers will want to check out? Sure. But I do want you to know that we have worked with other landscape organizations here in the federal level to say, we believe you guys are essential services. We have argued with CISA, the feds, and a bunch of governors, is that you are essential, that our outdoor space is so critically important to our well-being and our mental state and our ability. And that means having people maintain it in a way that we can use it, and that can be done reasonably and responsibly. So we believe you're an essential service. I believe the outdoors is essential, and so we've done that.
Yeah.
Expo, we have some cool new stuff this year. So the drone zone, that's still on. Indiana State University is putting it on. You can actually get a flying certificate at Expo this year.
Yeah.
So we have the drone zone. We're going to have some indoor areas to flying, put some nets up, and we're going to have some outdoor areas. We're putting in a UTV test track. That's underway as we speak. And most importantly, the outdoor area, our 20 acres, we've long worked with the KEC to say, guys, quit using that as a parking lot. You destroy it twice a year. You park the state fair people on it. That is primo stuff. Let's get that so my people can use it in a great way.
Yeah.
And they finally took us, God almighty, 10 years. But they agreed. And so the state government and the Kentucky Exposition Center has allocated quite literally millions of dollars.
Wow.
And so that outdoor area now, they're going to put a bunch of dirt, grade it, change because right now a bunch of interstate runoff cuts through that. So we have our little irrigation river.
Yep.
That's all going to be re-diverted. We're going to put some berms in and some plantings and some permanent
solutions
walkways.
Yeah.
And so we're going to really enhance that. Now, they're going to start here pretty soon. I don't know if it gets completely done by October, but a lot of it will get done.
Wow.
So we're really enhancing, I think, one of the primo things at Expo, which is our outdoor area. But it's going to be really enhanced for us to use, and it will become permanent green space at the KEC that they'll no longer use as a green parking lot.
I love it. Well, hey, by the way, if you don't mind, do a little plug here for us, because a lot of folks that are listening to the podcast, we've picked up probably about 25% more listeners since then you and I were able to do the first podcast talking about GIE+EXPO 2020. So for folks that don't know, it's the largest trade show in our industry that happens once a year down in Louisville, Kentucky. So and Kris Kiser is the president of OPEI, and you quarterback and run the event, the whole thing, with a combination with Warren Sellers and Sellers Exposition that puts on this whole event. So, okay, can you spend like 2-3 minutes here just letting people know, if they haven't heard about this whole event, what the heck this thing is and what we got going on?
Absolutely. You know me, I'm happy on this soapbox. If you're in this business, you got to be there. I mean, we're 38 years young, and every year that show gets bigger because we're doing something right.
Right.
If there's turf mine.
If
you the stay-at-home interview.
Right.
If you're in this business and you want to see the latest in hardscaping and landscape education and equipment, that's the place to do it. We've got 1,000 exhibitors, 1 million square feet, 20 acres of demonstration area. We have in-tree training. We put up a 70-foot tree, cut down a tree in Louisville the day or two before the show, truck it in, put it up in the largest Christmas tree stand in North America. That's all done at Expo. And we don't let you just see the equipment all shiny and pretty inside, right? In the north wing and the south wing. You can actually drive it, dig, cut, rip, tear, you name it. We'll let you exercise the equipment. We have a demonstration area, 20 acres at the back door. So it's the big trade show. Lots and lots of landscaper education, lots and lots of hardscape education, a lot of in-tree training, now drone training, UTV test tracks. So if you're in this business, 3 days, concerts downtown, it's the place you got to go to learn about the latest in landscaping, the latest of equipment. And again, we're 38 years young. We know we've been doing this right. A lot of influencers, a lot of guys like you. Down at the caverns, there's a unique opportunities for everybody, regardless of your age, whether you're 20 or 60, there's something for you at this show.
That's awesome. Well, and one thing too, Kris, I'll say this, a lot of open houses, you go to your local dealer, they have their open house February, March, April, depends where you're at in the country. And, they open up their showroom. Like we have a dealer here, Weingart's, great people, and they do a steak fry. And so there's 1,000 people that go through there. And, Weingart's has a huge showroom, and they're definitely a larger dealer. But for a lot of guys, Kris, I was talking to them program, their local dealer open house, as you would imagine, was scheduled late March, early April. And unfortunately, they didn't get to have them. And so if you missed out on being able to really spend a lot of time learning about equipment and walking the showroom floor, well, you know what? Hey, here's what I would do. Pack up the kids, pack up the wife, go make a 3-day little mini vacation in October, and they can check out all the equipment. What do you think about that?
And there's a lot of new stuff, whether it's lithium ion, solid state, robotics, autonomous, interconnected products, software. Again, there's 1,000 exhibitors. All of that stuff's at Expo. Now, granted, there are great dealer organizations like the one you just described, and you're going to see all the equipment that they, host or they showcase. But there are a lot of folks in that space. And so all that equipment, all those manufacturers, it gives you time to compare and contrast all our manufacturers. We love them. But whether it's electric, battery, diesel, hybrid, propane, you name it, it'll be at Expo.
I love it. And
again, the latest in autonomy, the latest in robotics, the latest in software interconnectivity. And if you want to talk to exhibitors about that and dealers and your landscape partners, that's all done at Expo.
For sure.
It's a unique opportunity. Like you just described, a lot of dealer meetings got pushed back.
Oh, wow.
Expo may hopefully be the time where we can all come together. It's our family reunion.
Amen. Well, and it's funny. This isn't sponsored content or anything like that. We're just talking about Expo. Obviously, Kris gets very excited about it. I get very excited about it. This is our industry's baby, if you will. And so we're very proud of our industry. Anytime that we get to talk about Expo or the green industry, especially Kris and I, like we'll just foam at the bit, right? So let me ask you this.
Enjoying today's show? Motivated to take your lawn care and landscaping business to the next level? Learn what it takes to grow your lawn and landscaping business today with training and education from the Lawntrepreneur Academy. Get educated with how-tos on mulch installation, plowing snow, aeration and overseeding, and so much more. These training programs are designed to help you save time and make more money with your business. Invest in your future by first investing in yourself. Use promo code PODCAST to save 10% on all courses today at LawnTrepreneurAcademy.com. Now, back to the show.
I wanted to kind of revisit the essential versus non-essential thing because not that you have to like go on the record and say this or that, but I think there's a lot of emphasis now, like you had said, talking about mental health and people enjoying their outdoor living spaces. So in your estimation, because you talk to a lot of people and you get the macro, and now maybe you can weigh in on my state, because in Michigan we're deemed non-essential, and it's extremely frustrating. Now, do you see the point where a lot of people, because they are going outdoors, that they're seeing the validity of like being essential and mowing grass and doing the whole deal and trying to help grow the economy too, or do you think that green industry should be deemed non-essential and we should all just shut down and just wait this thing out? Because I mean, the reality is we don't come in contact with anybody. What's your thoughts on all that? You know what I mean?
Oh, still stone cold essential.
Yeah.
Right? Again, I don't want to be, your governor's trying to do the right thing and keep the state safe, but I completely disagree. Again, we've weighed in. We've weighed in with Michigan. We've weighed in with landscapers.
Yeah.
We believe you're an essential service, essential provider, that the outdoor room is critically important to the health and safety of the family. It's a safe place to play, safe place to enjoy yourself, but not if you're in tall grass and leaves and covered in ticks.
Yeah.
Look, it's a room just like your living room or your den or your bedroom. It has to be maintained in a way that lets you use it, right? And so that's what's critically important. And frankly, it's spring. Nature has started, whether the virus likes it or not, whether the politicians like it or not. It has begun. And this is the time to make the decisions, to work with landscapers, to find the right plants for the right place, all the turf messages, right? Pollinator support, water runoff, you name it. But you got to do it now. Nature didn't stop. The virus didn't stop nature. And so you guys know how to do it right. You know how to do it responsibly. You're outdoors, right? You're 6 feet apart, or you're wearing. You can do it right, and we think you are an essential service, period.
Well, and it's funny to me too, because, we can, my governor, without getting overly political here, my governor, she shut us down because she said that we touched gas pumps and that we were low income. And so I know her salary is $159,000 a year. And apparently that's the definition of high income. which is weird because that's what one of my businesses does, Kris. But anyway, I digress. So it was just kind of ironic. But, I've heard a lot of people in my industry make the argument, Kris, that, we're non-essential until you don't cut the lawn in the summer and your lot gets 6 inches tall, and then the city comes and mows it down. And then all of a sudden it becomes pretty essential. And so I'm like, well, it's either you're essential or we're not essential. You can't have it both ways. Amen. And so it's just extremely frustrating from my point of view. Can you weigh in on like the NALP and the MGIA and all these national, I wouldn't call them like lobby groups, but our associations? How critical are they at this time during this kind of a crisis? Because this is all new territory to me.
Sure. I think they're critically important. They're your voice in the capital. Mm-hmm. If you're in ALP, your state associations are your voice in your local capitals. I'm sure the folks in Michigan and our friends like Jerry Grossi and others are saying, "Hey, Governor, hey, Lansing, this is a bad call." Look, a lot of people touch gas pump hand, right? Yeah. Lots and lots of people. We all have our Clorox wipes. We can do it reasonably and responsibly.
Amen.
But everybody's using fuel. I use fuel. I tell you what, it works me up. I just think that's so wrong.
We both want to just throttle right now. It's unfiltered, Kris. Say what you want. So I'm just having fun.
No, I think organizations like NALP, like the state associations, like OPEI, we're critically important in this time because we're the organized interface with our bureaucrats, with our governmental authorities. Mm-hmm. And I think we've been successful. NALP has had some success. We've worked with them in trying to establish that both you guys are an essential business and the equipment you need is essential.
Yeah.
I would argue, now they'll say, oh, well, chainsaws and portable generators in case of emergencies. I would argue that, hey, if you're taking tall grass down because it's springtime, I got a lot of deer, so I got ticks.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Well, the best thing you can do is knock your grass down and get rid of your leaf piles.
Yeah. Well,
so the kids and the dogs can get out there. Well, you need machines for that.
100%.
And so you and I are on the same page. Well, that's what we would argue, and I would say the associations are critically important to collectively use your voice, right? In a place like Washington or in a place like Lansing.
Well, and that's the thing. Like one thing I always got to remind myself is that we have a huge audience, a broad audience, I should say, and 49 out of 50 states are working. They're mowing grass. They're doing the whole deal. I get the electiveness of landscaping and maybe being more cosmetic, maybe not, maybe more of a luxury or whatever terms they're using these days to describe it. But most of the country is mowing grass. And so I'm always trying to remember and remind myself to stay positive, stay encouraging, because, 95 out of 100% of the people watching, they're working. And it's just, I just don't personally understand the logic of us being, non-essential and not being able to work. So from my viewpoint, the world's on fire, the world's ending and it's dark clouds, but everybody else, they're mowing. And here's the deal. I'm a team player. I mean, anybody who knows me, man, if you're in Ohio, you're in Pennsylvania, you're in Tennessee, and you're able to mow, I'm not like, well, why can they mow and I can't mow? Like I just don't play that card because it's so futile conversation. You know what I mean? But I think overall the industry has really come together. I mean, really, really, really came together because I've seen more, like you said, conversations, more advocacy, more lines of communication being opened up. I mean, for crying out loud, we had the MGIA. They are one of our local organizations for the state, and they were on one of the conference calls with the governor and being able to listen in about proper first. What do they call it, Kris? Like proper first procedures to be in the first round of open businesses when we do reopen. And so without the MGIA being on that phone call, who knows if we would have been advocated for, okay, so we got to wear gloves and masks. I get it. Probably not going to wear the mask. God bless. Find me. Just kidding. Just having fun. But the reality is that at least those people are at least on those phone calls and have those lines of communication. And I don't think we had any of that established just 6 to 8 weeks ago.
Well, and your organizations are better able, she probably swung for the fences, right? You do have a hot spot. Detroit was a real problem.
Sure.
And you're coming out of spring. A lot of the rest of the country was already in spring, right? You're one of the late, Minnesota and those upper guys on the Canadian border. You're a little later to the game, but your spring has sprung now. And so your services are needed. People like you are needed.
Sure.
Hopefully she comes to that sooner than later. We've certainly tried to make that case.
Right.
Look, the crew, there's crew right now in my cul-de-sac. There's a guy on a stand on ride-on. There's a Z. There's a guy with a blower. Look, they're nowhere near one another, right? And so then if they put their mask on when they're in the pickup, you can do it reasonably and responsibly. Hopefully she comes to that, right?
Yeah.
That you are on the early list. I think they quickly overreached. I'm hoping that gets turned around in practical terms. Look, the plants are growing. If a guy can mow his yard and you use a landscape service and you don't have your own mower, then what? You're supposed to go out to Home Depot, use the gas pump,
that was my next
mower,
point.
buy a can, blah, blah.
25,000 people going to Home Depot now instead, right? But yeah, again, like I don't want to get on the soapbox because it's, I get it. I understand both sides, but I guess my takeaway was I was looking for a little bit more common sense approach. Kris, I have a decent following on Instagram. Like we're nobody, but we did some memes about 2 weeks ago to maybe tag her in some posts, and she might have got tagged about 1,200 times. And and so imagine looking down at your phone and seeing 1,200 notifications. I'm not saying we're the reasons we're not open, but I maybe that's her way of sticking it back to my industry. So it's just funny, Kris. It is what it is, right? Again, I thought it would get
practical sense. The real world has a tendency to catch up to bureaucrats and politicians. Look, I've been in politics since I was 16 years old.
Yeah.
Still am today. It's a very frustrating thing dealing with these folks. Luckily, common sense over time typically prevails, but oftentimes it takes a while.
Yep.
So you just got to keep plugging. Well, that's the thing about bureaucrats and politicians. You just have to keep hammering at them.
Yep. Well, and that's why I always appreciate when I get somebody just a few years older than me, on the podcast, kind of like calm me down, because my age group, Kris, us, we're red-blooded male. We just, man, like, I grew up
in the village, negotiate with survivors.
yeah, amen. Well, and that's the thing too. Like, here's how I was joking with my wife. I feel I'm in a family group chat, and we were having this conversation. I feel like a lot of people are approaching this the first time when they have their first kid, right? It's all sanitizer wipes and, don't let them get sick and, the whole deal. And then by the time they have kid 3, the sucker falls in the dirt. They blow it off. They wipe it with a napkin and they jam the sucker back in the kid's mouth, right? And so that's how like we're approaching this. I'm like, look, we're landscapers. I'm like, have you ever seen the inside of a truck of a landscaper? I'm like, okay, maybe 1 out of 100 of us have it like sparkling immaculate. I know I do twice in the season.
Not the ones I've seen. Those are working. Those are working vehicles.
I know. So my truck looks immaculate the first day of spring because I get it detailed, and then the last day of the season because we get it detailed as we go into winter. So I try to get it clean twice a year, but the reality is that, man, like I'm eating Taco Bell in there. I'm eating, drinking Gatorade. It looks gnarly. It's not, it's not the nice. It's not a truck. My wife jumps in there, Kris, and she's like, you're an animal. I'm like, yeah.
What have you done?
Yeah. I'm like, she's like, it literally looks like pigs live in this truck. I go, well, what do you want from me? We're going 100 miles an hour. I'm like, hey, I vacuum this thing once every like 2 weeks. All right. Give me some credit, And, but I'm thinking to myself, hey, I get this COVID thing, and I'm not trying to make light of it. I'm just trying to keep some brevity here, with having some fun. But I'm just saying, like, if you've seen the immune system of a landscaper between getting bit by bugs, snakes, bugs, snakes, spiders, like you said, ticks crawling on you. I've had 2 ticks crawl on me, and thankfully neither attached, but you know what I'm saying? And I'm thinking to myself, I'm not saying we're immune, but I think that I have a better shot than most folks that, be required to wear a mask when they go inside of a Costco. But again, what do I know? I'm a low-income worker. I'm a peasant, Kris, and so it's just unreal.
We love you. We love the peasant.
No, amen.
I'm a peasant.
Yeah, we're so that's I guess the bottom line is I am proud of our industry, of like how we're working together, how we're having these conversations. Do I agree with the governor's orders? Of course not. I just, the frustrating thing to me is that we still got 2 more weeks. The grass is growing. We're gonna have to put down twice the amount of pesticides and insecticide to, curb any growth and problems that we have. Kris, like you said earlier, who's gonna be paying for the mowing tall grass fee? And when I got a bag grass, we're gonna be using more fuel, more. So it's just the approach to me is a little frustrating. And I guess that's kind of where I'll leave it, because I like to keep things positive. The reality is that we've been spending a lot of time on the back end with organizing our books, maintaining equipment, working on things that were on like my bottom 100 priority list, and so all the honey-do list, it's done. The 200 things that get done, I'm done with about 197 of them. And if my wife and I, if I don't get to go spend more time outside, it's just going to get crazy because we're cooped up. You know what I mean? So my wife is like, you're fixing things that aren't even broken. I go, I know. And so like that's what happens when guys just are just cooped up for a month at a time, and we literally can't go outdoors. So, but anyway, so. Well, here let's do some wrap up thoughts. What's the biggest thing that you're excited about over the next 2-3 months and things returning to normal as we go back into the growing season, and of course GIE is both in our scope, and we'll be there before you know it.
Dude, I'm like you. It's time to get outside. It's time to regroup. I think the country does begin to restart. Look, they called it a novel virus for one. Look, it's novel. It's new. We've never had to deal with this before in a way like this before.
Yep.
So let's, we're an ingenuous tribe, right? We'll figure it out. We'll get a vaccine. We'll get it. But life goes on. The business of the association, the business of Expo, the business of Turf Mutt goes on. And there was a silver lining. Turf Mutt programming got used to connect people to the outdoors. Kids. Again, I've said it before. My neighbor's a pediatrician. She says, look, the thing you can do for your kid, get them dirty.
Yeah.
Dig a hole, get them a dog.
Amen.
Expose them to the outdoors. And so hopefully that's happening. Hopefully spring has sprung in politicians' minds, and we'll get back to work. And I want you to come to Expo. I want you to tell your listeners to come to Expo. We need it. We need to be back together as a family this year, most importantly. And so I look forward to seeing you in October.
I love it, brother. Well, I think you said there's the flood and the dam is ready to burst. I think the economy is ready to spring back. I think our industry, I'm telling you what, I talk to distributors, I talk to dealers, I talk to contractors, I talk to manufacturers. I was on the phone just not even 2 or 3 days ago with Ed Wright, and Ed Wright's like, yeah, we're doing this and this. We have like different mitigation and measures in place. He goes, but honestly, Brian, we're ready to rock and roll. Business is up, sales are up. We're excited about the spring. So if all these companies I'm talking to, Kris, are at the same level of sales or already increased, I can't wait to see what happens when we get to, all get back out there in the next week or two at the time of this recording and just flood back into the industry. The industry's on the grow. I mean, if we're doing this well.
Oh yeah, we're okay. We're in good shape.
Yeah.
Regrettably, we're not a restaurant or bar and some of the other kinds of businesses that are really, really stung, really hurting.
100%.
But no, we're ready to go, and the companies are okay. We're in pretty good shape. So Ed's on the money, and if they'll let you guys just do the work you want to do, we'll be in good shape.
Amen. I love it, brother. Well, hey, if you guys don't know, we do have a GIE+EXPO registration link where you can save 50% off. We'll make sure to plug that in the show notes. I know like 100 people have already got their registration ticket from my audience, Kris, which is just awesome. So I talked to Evan, I talked to Warren, these guys. Everybody, it's all engines forward. And that's super exciting. And that gives me a lot of confidence in my industry and my business. Right now in Michigan, for example, I got to pump the brakes. I know a lot of these guys across the country, though, they're going 100 miles an hour. We just did a coaching call with a guy last night, and he's like, we just gained 20 new customers in the last 2 weeks because nobody can go outside. He's in the Cleveland area. And he goes, so they're forced to find a contractor to take care of their property because they don't have a mower. And so everywhere I go, business is up, attitudes are up. And so my mentality is, hey, don't get stuck in the mud. If you want to grow your business, take full responsibility, and let's keep crushing it. So, hey, Kris, we always appreciate you jumping on the podcast. Having you on once a quarter, I think it's really helpful for everybody and my mental health. Amen. So, hey, we appreciate you taking the time to be on the show.
Oh, my pleasure, Brian. Good to be with you. And don't wait on your hotel room. I saw my hotel sheets yesterday from Louisville. They're filling up.
Wow.
So don't wait on that hotel, and I look forward to seeing you.
All right, guys. Well, cool deal. We'll appreciate that. Kris, thanks so much. If you guys want to grab your tickets, we'll leave that in the show notes. But, hey, again, thank you guys for listening to the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast. We can't wait to catch up with you guys on the next one.
Thanks for taking the time to listen to the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast with Brian Fullerton. We hope you enjoyed this production. If so, please consider leaving us a 5-star review for the show. While the techniques and ideas presented here are designed to help you grow a more successful and profitable business, no one can guarantee these results for you. We want to emphasize that entrepreneurship is not easy, and the ideas presented here are just the opinions of Brian Fullerton and his respective guests. No one can guarantee success for you. That being said, we hope the ideas presented here help you and motivate you to go on out there and crush it with your own business.
Fullerton Unfiltered Podcast.
Thanks for listening, and we hope to see you on the next episode.